My book series is actually about 5 core themes. The first theme is that leadership has to start with you. You can't change anything until you first can change yourself. So that's the first theme. The second theme is that there are multiple domains that you have to interact across: the personal, the social, and the systemic. So you have to master yourself, then you have to bring that into your interpersonal dynamics or your relational dynamics, and then you also have to create change on a broader scale. And so within your teams, within your organizations, or within the systems that you're a part of. The third thing is like your awareness or the insights that you gather as a leader is useless to you or meaningless to you unless you actually take action on it. And so you have to take action on the insights or the awareness that you have if you want to create meaningful change. The fourth thing is conscious leadership is a practice. It's about recognizing and understanding that you have to do the practices if you want to be a more conscious person and a more conscious leader. And the last thing is the idea of like your leadership rippling outward. And this is a throughout the book series, we'll talk about it in every single book, but like who you are as a person and who you are as a leader is going to influence the people around you. And through you being who you are, you will create the change that you're trying to create. And so to break it down a little bit, to go a little bit deeper, when we talk about leadership begins within, that is the idea or the recognition that you can't actually create anything externally until you have created the conditions within yourself first to make that happen. And essentially what we mean here is, do you have the level of awareness that you need? Do you have the right beliefs and the right assumptions? Are you visibly demonstrating through your behaviors and your actions a pattern that consistently tells people that you're trustworthy and that you mean the words that you say and that you are serious about your cultural desires? And so, in order to create change externally, you have to first create the conditions for that change yourself personally, and you have to visibly demonstrate that every day. And the second part, which is the domains or the levels of mastery: the personal, the social, and the systemic. And so the personal level is, your level of awareness, your level of clarity, your level of emotional intelligence, your ability to self-regulate when you're under pressure, and anything that is involved in the self-leadership or the self-help, self-awareness realm falls into the personal category. Now, the social category is actually where you take everything that you've learned on the personal side and you use that in your interpersonal dynamics with others. And so it's how you create trust, belonging, and accountability, and how you bring those concepts to your relationships. And the systemic area is the interdependence of us with the people that we interact with the teams and with the organizations that we interact with the states and the nations that we interact with, and how we interact globally. It's recognizing an interconnectedness and an interdependence to all of those things. And it is where complexity and sustainability and your long-term impact actually comes out. And so basically, the framework in the book series argues that for your leadership to be complete, all three of these levels have to be developed, and you have to have mastery in all three of these levels. And the third area is your awareness alone is not enough. And what I mean by this is that many leadership development programs will stop at the idea of knowing and understanding what your values are. Or once you have the insight, whether you've done that through meditation or journaling or whatever the other practices are, once you have that insight, that's where you stop. And the reality is that that's not where you stop. You have to then take action on the things that you've learned. And so if I have an awareness that I have a bias and I don't do anything about that bias, I am still perpetuating inequity in the world by not addressing my bias. And so the framework in the book series actually emphasizes that In order for you to create meaningful change, you have to take your insights that you gather from your leadership experience and you have to actually translate it into visible behavior. And so, how do you actually start your day, and do you interact with people? How do you interact with people? When you're in meetings, do you ask for other people's opinions? Do you pause before responding to a question that requires a pause? And how do you actually demonstrate through your behaviors and through your actions that you're taking the insight and the feedback that you've gotten and you're creating change based on that? And so this is throughout the book series, we talk about conscious action, and this is what this is. You have to take conscious action on the insights that you gather. Otherwise, the information is meaningless as a leader. And the other area, so as part of, developing your awareness and taking conscious action on that, there are 4 frameworks in the book series that we go into: reflexivity, intentionality, congruence, and presence. And in presence, there are actually 2 models that we talk about. We talk about presence itself, and then we also talk about pause, the ability to pause as part of that practice. And that basically is teaching yourself as a leader how to create pause in your daily life, so that when you're in the moment and you have to respond, you already have a built-in mechanism that says, something is triggering me. I need to notice that. I need to pause and reflect. I need to do whatever it is I need to do. If it's labeling the emotion, if it's regulating the body, if it's something along those lines, you have to first have that pause. And so the 4th book, Presence, talks about presence and pause as a massive part of that. And each one of these frameworks are all interconnected in how they interact together as part of the larger framework. And so I'll say that. And then the 4th area is recognizing that leadership is a daily practice. And this book in particular positions conscious leadership as a practice that you can develop rather than some innate quality that you have or some characteristics of your personality. It is a practice that you can develop. So anyone can practice pause, can practice emotional regulation, can practice breathing techniques, can practice all the things that we talk about in the book and use those skills to their advantage. You don't have to have any kind of skill set before taking this on. You can start at a baseline level as long as you are open to acting on the guidance that you get. And so recognizing that this is a daily practice, and it's less about who you think that you are and more about who you're actually being every day, specifically the values that you are visibly demonstrating in your behaviors and in your actions. And then the final part of that is the ripple effect. And I absolutely love there's a group of researchers who did some work in innovative, positive organization development. And as part of that, they talk about this concept of refraction. And this is recognizing that you are the prism in which everything refracts out into your spheres of influence. And so if you are practicing the practices that we talk about, and you are visibly demonstrating your change and your ability to change, then through that process, you are actually showing everyone around you what the ideal circumstance is, and you're teaching them how to be every single day. And instead of listening to what you're saying, they're watching what you're doing. And when they watch you do exactly what you're telling them they should be doing, then that's twice they're getting the information from you. They're getting what you're telling them they should do, and they're getting what you're showing them they should do. And that is what actually creates the change that you're looking for, especially in terms of cultural dynamics. And so this idea of refraction is based on the like rippling out, or the fact that your leadership will resonate better across your spheres of influence if you are personally practicing the practices and demonstrating them every day. And I think probably it's conscious leadership, and everything that we talk about in the book series is less about mm, improving yourself. While that is part of the goal, it is less about improving yourself and more about recognizing how your being is going to influence and create and shape change, and how it's going to do that in your relationships, in your teams, in your organizations, in your communities, and even sometimes on a global scale. And so those are the five core concepts of the book. And we dive into each one of them in the first book, which is the overview book. And then we dive into the concepts, reflexivity, intentionality, congruence, and presence in each one of the follow on books after that.